Coming up on Now See This.
Mother went right through my parachute.
Police chase a car with a few loose screws.
Yeah, he's got pretty good front end damage.
And a driver to match.
This person is toying with him.
A skier with a big ego gets taken down a notch. And a motorcycle jumper tries to impress the crowd, only to leave them speechless.
Oh my God. Everybody bow your head and pray.
There's a spat with a cat, a spin and a swim, and a cop who's ready to pop.
You stop, I will shoot you.
Think you've seen it all? Now see this. Skydiver Findlay McCool, a husband and father of 4, bails from a 727 thinking he's diving in safe company. But he has no clue he's sharing airspace with a rookie whose inexperience will soon rip his sense of security away. A camera attached to Findlay's helmet records his fall over Quincy, Illinois. The weather is perfect, and so is his jump, so far. Findlay and his friends form a ring. But a quick look at their altimeters tells them they're dropping fast, and they must deploy their parachutes. With his chute safely open, Findlay is ready to kick back, relax, and enjoy the rest of his ride in peace. But instead of peace, he gets terror. A female parachutist smacks into Findlay's chute, busting a huge hole right through the middle. With only 800 feet left, he quickly cuts away the chute and prays his reserve will work. Thankfully, it opens without a hitch, but Findlay's still fuming. A few seconds later, and he would have been a dead man landing. Needless to say, the whole event has left him very verbal with his feelings.
Who the was that? Came right through my parachute.
But his hindsight is less than 20/20.
When I got to the ground, it was relief, it was happiness. I wasn't even mad at the woman that hit me.
There's my parachute, I'm on a reserve. Mother went right through my parachute. Coming down just now. I did about an 800-foot cutaway.
Didn't lose my temper at all, contrary to my natural disposition. I was very calm.
Just moments before the mid-air collision, you can see the skydiver heading straight for Findlay.
I thought I ran into an imaginary tower. I looked up, I saw legs kicking, and I saw the lower half of a woman in my parachute.
You mother...
He reacts out of fear more than anger, thinking he may never see his wife and 4 daughters again.
Quite frankly, a myriad of thoughts went through my head. I thought about my family, I thought about my friends.
Findlay had only 2 options: stick with his damaged chute or cut it loose with only seconds to spare and hope his reserve would save him. Thankfully, his decision was a good one.
God was looking after me because no bones got broken and we landed safely.
This daredevil is grateful to be alive. But as a lawyer, he isn't about to let the guilty skydiver off scot-free.
Without a doubt, I couldn't believe her stupidity. When I saw her on the ground, again, she was hiding from me.
Findlay faces the terrified woman with the ripped chute in hand and makes her a promise.
And I told her, hey, it's on film. If I was wrong, I'll apologize to you. If you were wrong, then it's the other way around.
A quick look at the tape, and both agree it was a freak accident. No one is to blame.
You mother...
As for his language, Findlay only blames himself.
And that's my one regret, I would have chosen my words better if I'd have known it was going to show up on television someday.
Mother went right through my parachute.
In Arizona, a cameraman is on a routine ride-along with police. But this drive is about to get a major adrenaline charge.
27th Avenue and Camelback. I got a theft suspect just stole a bunch of stuff from the AutoZone.
A man just ran out of an auto parts store with less than $20 in merchandise. Now he's running from the law, turning what could have been a simple misdemeanor into a full-fledged felony. It's the kind of logic that makes officers nervous, according to crime expert detective Jon Curry.
There's no indication that he's thinking rationally, which could lead to a very dangerous situation.
On 28th Avenue, and we're gonna go for pursuit. You stop right now, I will shoot you!
Even though he doesn't seem to have a plan, the suspect successfully disappears into a dark neighborhood.
Hail Brett! About 6 foot.
Officers radio for aerial support. While the police helicopter searches for the suspect from the sky, officers start looking for the guy on the ground. And it turns out this suspect left a pretty long trail of clues. To start with, a witness.
I recognized the vehicle, and I was like, I know who that is.
Next, officers search the suspect's abandoned truck. They find more than enough evidence to put a name to the mystery face.
Right now, we've identified the subject.
The suspect basically provided everything and then some that the police would need.
Unbelievable. $15 for all this trouble.
The officers are compiling a mound of important information, and the fugitive is quickly running out of options.
We know who you are. Come out and contact one of the officers.
He can't go on the lam. Police have his vehicle. He can't go home. Police have his address. And as it turns out, he can't even call a friend for help.
There's something else he dropped.
He dropped his phone?
Yeah.
Officers know that such a disorganized suspect won't be able to run for long. But in sharp contrast to the suspect, police have an organized plan of action. They form a tight perimeter around the neighborhood. All the while, the police helicopter illuminates any dark hiding spots on the ground.
515, they are all in the area.
It's only a matter of patience before police find their mark.
I'm behind you on your right, officer. I'm behind you on your right.
The suspect is cuffed,
Okay, 515, we do now have him in custody.
but officers still have some questions.
Who knows what was in his mind until you actually talk to him to find out what he was thinking, if he was thinking at all. You have the actual crime that's in front of you, but what is driving this guy?
Clearly, the man wasn't using his head when he led police on a chase.
How come you ran from me, though?
I panicked.
You panicked?
He probably wasn't thinking straight when he stole the items in the first place. But this suspect isn't stupid. In fact, the more police learn about him, the more baffled they are.
I've been accepted to medical school.
You have.
Yeah.
Right here, guy.
Turns out the man is an all-American athlete and a straight-A college student at one of Arizona's most prestigious universities. But he had one handicap. The man admits to having a serious drug addiction and asks for help. It's the first indication that he's ready to wise up and stop running from his problems. 11 miles off the Texas shoreline, a Coast Guard rescue crew is about to earn their pay. While alone on the seas, loving father and avid fisherman David Wagner was thrown out of his boat when it hit a piece of driftwood. Now as the boat spins in wild circles, David bobs helplessly in the chilly, shark-infested waters nearby.
Temperature of the water was at that point where it was still pretty cold, in the low 70s. We knew we needed to get out there pretty quick.
Commander Scott is in charge of the chopper team, and even though a 41-foot Coast Guard boat is en route, he decides to deploy his own rescue swimmer.
Normally what I'd like to do is let the vessel make that rescue and not expose my rescue swimmer if I don't have to. But he'd been in the water for close to 2 hours at that time.
Knowing David is in grave danger from hypothermia, rescue swimmer Mark Vail prepares to plunge into the water. But just as he does, Mark spots the dorsal fins of several sharks prowling too close by for comfort.
I was a little worried about some sea predators at that time, but I had to get rid of that thought pretty quick.
Mark swims rapidly over to David. He's surprised to find him not wearing a life jacket, but staying afloat with an inflated raincoat. Even more bizarre, the delirious man is stripped to his underwear, and therefore uninsulated from the cold ocean waters.
He was obviously very tired, very hypothermic, and he didn't have much time left.
And we decided at that point that the 41-footer was close enough that we would put him back up onto the boat.
With David's body temperature plunging, Mark drags him away from the lurking sharks toward the utility boat. David's limp body is hoisted on board, where the crew quickly checks his vital signs.
I don't know exactly what his body temperature was, but I do know that he had already gone through several stages of hypothermia.
David must be taken to a hospital now, but the utility boat can't make it to shore fast enough. So Commander Scott decides to hoist the victim up in the chopper and airlift him back to land. It's a tension-filled trip to the hospital in Galveston, but once David is in the care of emergency room physicians, he's on the road to a complete recovery. Today, David Wagner can finally thank the men who saved him face to face. Even a month later, David vividly recalls what happened when his boat got rocked by a piece of driftwood.
I went over the gunnel before I had time to react at all. I was in the water.
Desperate not to be shark bait, David tried to stop the boat by removing his clothes and using them to foul the propeller.
It almost worked. When I threw my jeans up under there, the motor bogged down and I thought it was going to stall completely, but it spit it out and I never did find the jean shorts again.
By the time he got down to just his raincoat, David recalled an ocean survival skill his son Brad had taught him just days before.
One of the things that I remembered from my son telling me his experience in the Navy was how to make a flotation device out of ordinary articles of clothing.
David filled his raincoat with air and transformed it into an improvised life preserver. Thanks to his son's tip, he was able to stay afloat for the 2 hours until the Coast Guard arrived.
It made me feel really good to know that I told him something that helped him stay afloat and helped him survive.
As for the rescue, David couldn't have been more impressed by the Coast Guard's response.
The actual rescue was a thing of beauty to me. It was like a well-orchestrated band.
According to Commander Scott, the admiration is mutual.
He kept his head, and he stayed in the game, stayed alert, and didn't give up.
And thanks to a chilly brush with death, this fisherman learned his lesson, once and for all.
I will never be complacent on that body of water again.
From the skies over Southern California, this appears to be yet another typical highway pursuit, but looks can be deceiving.
This guy's got a pretty good front end damage. We're not sure where that came from.
It began in the community of Rancho Cucamonga, 45 miles east of Los Angeles. Local police got suspicious when they saw this suspect driving erratically.
101 freeway northbound still.
Or maybe it was the fact that the car has no license plate, no hood, and no front end for that matter. But it does go fast. Police then learn that the car, or at least what's left of it, is stolen. But who would steal such a vehicle?
He's going to try and get through the intersection. Okay, he's going to be back on the freeway, looks like.
Police want to find out, as the suspect leads them through several communities and down long stretches of highway, leaning on the accelerator at every turn.
They were clocking him just then at 90 miles an hour.
After an hour of near misses, police follow him into a mountain pass north of Los Angeles. By now, local officers have dropped out and handed their pursuit over to the California Highway Patrol. They wisely keep a safe distance, after all. The only thing they know about him is that he's totally unpredictable. He swerves through traffic, even using the shoulder to stay just ahead of the law. They lay back, not wanting to endanger the public by being too aggressive. But the drivers of these semis decide to get involved. and they have no use for subtlety.
Looks like these trucks are slowing down, forcing him off of the freeway.
Massive trucks squeezing your car off the road would give most rational people a good reason to stop. But this guy's unfazed, barreling through an intersection and right back onto the highway. Police assume he'll ramp up the speed again, but instead of hurling the decrepit car down the road, he starts to slow.
At this time, it looks as though he is slowing down. He's slowing down dramatically.
Eventually coming to a complete stop, baffling police with his every move. Worried that he's geared up for a confrontation, police train their guns on him and shut down traffic for miles in both directions. For a moment, the man just sits there. He's been so unpredictable, they have no idea what to expect, so they lay back. They're prepared for him to produce a weapon, but the suspect just shoots off his mouth, taunting them. And when he's done, he drives away.
Look at that. So the entire thing was a feint operation. I imagine that they will change their tactics now that they know that this person is seemingly toying with them.
Continuing the unorthodox chase, he heads for what he thinks is an exit ramp. But it's actually a runaway truck ramp designed to stop semis that have lost their brakes. The gravel engulfs his tires. He's going nowhere, and police know it. Now, it's just a waiting game. The suspect makes the first move. He gets out, muttering to himself. Police haven't been able to predict anything he's done so far, but they make one last attempt. It's brutally hot. Maybe the guy is thirsty. They toss him a bottle of water, but it's really bait. And he takes it. With the help of their secret weapon, a canine officer, the police finally end this strange pursuit. But before the suspect even leaves the scene, the officers find out why this was such an unusual ordeal. The man is an incoherent transient, who's eventually found mentally incompetent to even stand trial. Now he'll receive 3 square meals a day, a roof over his head, and the proper medication to bring him back to reality. So it turns out that his most insane act may have put him back on the road to sanity. Spectators in Twin Falls, Idaho expect to see some good, clean biking. But today, they will witness something straight out of a horror movie. More than a dozen freestyle bikers just finished performing, and it's time for stuntman Michael Brown to close the show with a death-defying feat.
You guys think he's gonna make it? They got faith in you, Mike.
MC Chris King keeps the crowd pumped as Michael heads toward his starting position.
We were stoked to see what he was gonna do because, like I said, it seemed to everyone pretty tough.
All right, you guys. I hear the bike! Here we go!
Michael is a world record breaker who lives to entertain kids with his biking stunts. But today's trick will have parents wishing they'd left their little ones at home.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Everybody bow your head and pray, please. Everybody pray for him, please.
Michael was supposed to land on top of the truck's flatbed, not underneath it.
All right, you guys, a moment of prayer, please.
The entire audience is in shock, including Chris. He was the last to speak with Michael before he hit the ramp.
He asked me if I thought he was gonna make it. I was like, I don't know, man, it's pretty windy, you know, it seems kind of dangerous.
The wet and windy conditions made it impossible for Michael to build up enough speed. And by the time he realizes it, he has only one option: duck. From several angles, you can see Michael misses the mark by mere feet. His landing is so severe, Michael practically digs himself a shallow grave.
Oh my God.
I can almost hear him hitting the ground. The first thing that we thought was he's dead, for sure.
An ambulance is at Michael's side within seconds, but paramedics aren't sure there's much to save.
They just rolled him right on to the stretcher, got him in there as fast as possible. I think it felt like they were trying to avoid any sort of scene.
Fans and fellow bikers alike are left in tears. No one would have guessed the night's big finale would end like this.
We got a call the next morning, right away from the producer of the show, who said that he was alive, which was a shock, you know, but he was in a coma.
For 5 weeks, Michael is dead to the world, and his parents prepare for the worst. But then, they witnessed what doctors deemed impossible.
When I opened my eyes, and I had no idea that what had occurred, this accident happened. I had questions, you know, where are we at? What are we doing? What's going on? I had no idea.
The crash wiped out Michael's short-term memory and broke nearly every bone in his body. Paramedics didn't know it at the time, but Michael's left leg was severed by a metal knee brace he was wearing under the leather suit.
You could see my boot was on the ground. They picked up my body, put me on, and the boot never moved. It was quite apparent that this part wasn't attached to this part.
His body was in a shambles, but his spirit never waned. 5 surgeries and hours of therapy have allowed Michael to return to living life to the fullest.
The accident dramatically has changed my life for the better. I see everything just as wonderful. You know, life is for living, love is for giving.
His outlook on life is all the brighter since the accident. But as for the sport itself, Michael sometimes regrets his leap of faith.
What was going on in my head? I have no idea. All I can think of is that the man upstairs said, "Mr. Brown, it's time for you to take a break."
Michael will never bike again, but with the help of steel rods supporting his bones and a prosthetic leg that's coming soon, he hopes to walk once more into the public eye as a motivational speaker and resume the role of hero to children.
So I'm gonna be good to go. $6 million man ain't got nothing on me.
A victim is trapped on a power pole in Reno, Nevada, but firefighters aren't worried. After all, cats have 9 lives. Its owner is nowhere to be found, but a passerby noticed the tired tabby lying limp inches from the live wires and reported it to authorities.
Hi, kitty. How are you?
Power was shut off immediately, and animal control set up a makeshift net down below. With everyone's help, this rescue should be a no-brainer. But the feline has plans of its own.
Hi, baby.
The cat is alone, weak, and scared, but she's also one more thing, uncooperative.
I'll go that way.
All right.
Okay.
The snare grabbed her good, but on her way down, she sprang off the drop sheet and took off.
I hope you guys didn't want that.
The snare is still stuck around her neck, but this cat doesn't care. Now this rescue has turned into an interspecies 100-yard dash. And this feline is a bad loser.
There you go. Woo! Hi, kitty.
She's a bit of a drama queen. If only this kitty knew all this fuss was for her own good.
Thank you.
Animal control plans to give her a good checkup before giving her back to her owner. But one thing's for sure, if she ever climbs up there again, no one will be in a hurry to help her. When you're as cool as skier Jeff Engerbretson, nothing rattles you. You see, Jeff is a risk taker. He runs with scissors, orders red wine with fish, and thinks nothing of carving up the steepest slopes in the Rocky Mountains. Today, a film crew captures him working his unflappable style and ice-cold moves on the backcountry powder of Loveland Pass, Colorado. This is no ski resort, and there are no lifts. It's a place where the deep snow goes to settle, undisturbed. But Jeff's got other plans. He isn't going home until every flake on this mountain knows his name and respects him. However, respect goes both ways. This is avalanche country, and Jeff knows it. He just doesn't care. He's having too much fun. He goes for his last run of the day, but not by choice. The entire mountain rips away. Jeff's now at the mercy of a freezing wave of gravity-driven doom. Sort of. The avalanche isn't moving that fast, and the huge chunks of snow are keeping Jeff afloat. In fact, he seems to be enjoying the ride. He even waves to his buddies, making sure they're catching it all as the flowing snow glides to a stop. So why did one of the most destructive forces of nature decide to take it easy on Jeff Engebretson? He's just that cool.